There? Oh,
There we are.
wonderful. Oh, great. Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Flow from Om School Live. We are here with you as on our Tuesday on another hot topic. GP Walsh here to help us meander through all the thoughts and emotions and fun experiences that we get to have that we don't think are so fun at the time, and then hopefully can look back. So GP, we'll let a few people come on here, and I love how everybody says good morning, and Penny was able to join us. Hello, and Sylvia. Today's topic, as I just gently introduce it, I know there's not one person who hasn't at some point experienced something like this. And the more even I look back into my life, I think, wow, I thought maybe I was, had my protective veil, like, no, but other people's comments and other people's beliefs, and if they accept us or not, or sometimes they're nasty, sometimes they're extra nice, sometimes they're trying to manipulate and trick us with compliments, and it comes from all sorts. But the problem, I think, is, and we're going to be talking about this, everybody, today, is when we not just believe in what other people say to us and about us, but we, in a way, rely on it to keep that image going. Like we fall prey and trapped to like, oh, that must be who I am. Everybody says this about me or to me. And so when we ask that question, GP, of like, who am I? Well, we've got to go through a lot of layers of what everybody else has kind of what we've believed. So yes, I'll start with, what is what is not the difference, but of hearing what other people believe, say about us, believing it, and then actually taking it on versus just, okay, that's what they think about me. Right. Or yeah, because we've got to think something about everybody.
Right. The human mind is a judging, comparing machine. That's what it does. So, well, what it boils down to is it's not enough. There's levels to it, right? It's not enough to just say, well, that's their opinion, right? That happens on the cognitive level, right? If there's any sting at all, there's something on a deeper level. And this is the thing I always want to bring attention to. Nothing can stick unless there's a place for it to stick, right? If there's no place for it to stick, it just goes right by. As I quoted Mooji in the email, the best salesman in the world can't sell you if you don't buy, right? Yeah. And Buddha also told the story. He says, if somebody gives you a gift and you don't take it, where does it go?
Yeah. Yes.
Right. The people who prey on the weak, they come in all sorts of shapes and sizes and varieties. We know the pedophiles and those kinds of sexual predators and the like. Even kind of the pickup artist, right, falls into that category. They can only do that because they can press a button that gets an automatic response from you. And it is, unfortunately, all of us had an upbringing where we were not taught how to self-validate. We were taught to defer to others for our own self-validation. So we need what other people say. And if you are somebody who grew up in a house that was highly critical, you're going to be comfortable being criticized. You know how to play that role. And so somebody who picks up on that is just going to be giving just the right amount of pain to evoke from you a response that you don't really have conscious control over. Doesn't matter how many self-help programs you take or how many you visualize, put "I love you" on the mirror and stuff. It doesn't sink in. Yeah. it doesn't sink in, right? Because it's purely cognitive. This is energetic. This is a programmed response. And there are people that I've worked with bosses who could do that. They helped me find some weak spots in me. I found myself doing stuff. Wait a minute, right? And then I realized I was being manipulated, right? And once you realize it, that's actually not even enough yet, because it's an automatic response, right? It's like, the doctor takes a little thing, hits you on the knee. You can't control it. Right?
No, you cannot. I tried.
You can't control it. Fortunately, with these kinds of programs, they're software programs, not hardware programs, and therefore they can be diffused. But this takes a concerted effort. You have to realize that we were all taught to value the opinions of others over ourselves.
Yes.
This is parenting in the West in the modern era.
Yes.
It's all about submission to authority, right? This is particularly true in religious groups, obviously, right? Because if you don't, it's eternal damnation.
I actually
Which isn't fun, by the way.
No, you stick the word eternal in there.
Yeah.
I've seen this flip actually reversed in, I'm going to say, well, I'm in my 40s, so my sister has children, and I'm not outing my sister here or anything, but I'm recognizing that a lot of people my sister's age with children, well, not children, but teenagers her age, somewhere along the line, it's been a reverse where the parents are really seeking the approval of the kids. And so when we grew up, you was like, you better make sure that your parent, you pleased your parents in a way, right? But I'm actually seeing a reverse in society where a lot of adults are now seeking the approval of children when, like, if they buy me McDonald's, no, you cannot have McDonald's. Well, I don't love you then. Oh, okay, well, we'll get you McDonald's. So there's kind of this fear of a role reversal where we think that a boss, a parent, somebody in authority would be comfortable and not be manipulated. But we're seeing, I'm seeing anyways, and I think other people are, that this reversal of where we're believing what these people are saying.
Yes. And, basically you're teaching the son to be the predator, or the daughter to be the predator. Because you're teaching them that if they just manipulate your emotions, they will get what they want. And without consciousness, that will become the adult behavior. They become the vampire, because they learn how to do it, because they pick up on mom's weakness. But they are still not capable of self-validating because they've not gotten anything real as of yet. It's not like it's better. They still haven't gotten anything real. They're still relying on others, right? And so that fundamental weakness is still there. And if somebody comes along who knows how to feed that in them, they become an absolute slave to them. Right? This is the nature of the unconscious. This is the nature of the robotic identity. It only responds to stimulus. Until we are conscious, all we do is respond to stimulus. There's no free will. There's no choice. None of that is nonsense. Right? It is all completely robotic until genuine consciousness comes on the scene. And that's why I emphasize so much self-inquiry, because that's the only way to cut through all of the stuff that actually isn't you, but the conditioning you've taken on. And because the conditioning runs so deep and the response is instantaneous, right, we don't have much evidence that I'm anything other than that. It takes a moment to stop and look to see that the event happening in my reaction to them are not hardwired. It was programmed by experience, right? Which means it can be deprogrammed. And therein lies the hope of this all. And it starts with a recognition that I am not my conditioning.
Yeah.
And then beginning to discern what is a conditioned response and what is actually my conscious awareness. And that's the whole meat of this. This is what we do. It's what I do 24/7.
It is, and it takes a lot, because right now that's, oh my gosh, my brain's on fire in a good way. In a good way, which I've lit on fire all the programs. I am now, I think, I don't know, I'm going to be bold and say this. Can I say this? I've done a lot of cleanup in my life, and some people think I'm, or non-emotional. They think, how can you just, move on from this time of a person and relationship, friendship, be it, or romantic or otherwise, because I recognize that it's done or it's not going to serve, or I didn't like that program and that person, or it doesn't work with my program, or and it's I'm pretty clear.
Incompatible software. Yes.
Yes. Oh, exactly. Love that. That's perfect. That's a great way to break up with somebody if ever you guys did it. Sorry.
Sorry, we have incompatible software.
It's not irreconcilable differences. It's incompatible software.
Software, that's right.
Stop doing that. Guys, give us a thumbs up if you like that. But, and this is the thing, because I'm looking and going, wow, it's when we do the self-inquiry, we are starting to now see other people's programming. But here's a little twist, and I have to ask on a personal level. What if we have so much compassion that we're like, oh, it's okay. You're just programmed that way. I love you no matter what. So treat me like shit. But it doesn't work like that, I know. But how, when we believe others because we have compassion for them, now what do we do?
Well, that's very different. I can be very compassionate towards somebody and not be under their thumb. Right? It's not compassion to give in to their robotic tendencies. It's exactly the opposite. If I sacrifice myself for the sake of this robot, what am I doing? Nothing. What am I gaining? Nothing. What are they gaining? Nothing. With the insight that it is that it is that kind of reactive pattern, and that something inside of me is responding to it, comes naturally both the authority and the necessity of becoming conscious. Okay? When we really get it and we actually see the damage it's doing, you're kind of indicted by your own awareness, right? You can't unring that bell, and you become, and if you try to, you will just become increasingly. You become increasingly bitter. You become increasingly unhappy, and that is part, because people do try to do that, right? Mm-hmm. Right. Once there's kind of this underlying sense. Yes, this is really what's happening, but there's so many layers on top of it that you just don't want to admit it, right? You want to try to maintain the illusion, and you just get more and more and more miserable until finally you go, God damn it, I got it. I have to have it. I have to get out of this one way or the other. And oftentimes in the beginning, people will try to get them to change. You can't treat me like that, right? I'm sorry. It's like you're arguing with your computer, right? That's what the program does. Unless there's consciousness over there that's willing to go, oh wow, I am doing that. I'm sorry. Let's work on this together. That's a real relationship. You can work with that, right? But if there isn't, and in most cases there isn't, there's nothing to do but leave.
I love that you said relationship, because you have to relate. A computer is not relating to you; it's responding and doing what it's programmed to do. So
yeah, but there's nobody there,
right? It's So it's all about I love that you said. I wrote it earlier, but it's okay. Stimulus. Like I was thinking about, I hate that I thought about it, but the little rats, how they respond to stimulus. If they want the food, they do this, or they, yes. Yeah. And they're not robots. They're cute little rats. But
they are.
A question came up last week about, being, when you were, well, I'm just going to put it out there, people who are in relationships, and we have some lovely people with us, students and colleagues and friends who are in relationships where their ex-partner, whether they're partner or ex-partner, but they still perhaps live with them. They still have to work with them. They still have to see them. They have to share children with them. And that other person is nasty to them. Yet there's this little part of them that it does break down their self-esteem, their confidence, and they start believing it.
Well, yes, and it'll keep breaking it down until you can't be broken anymore. That's the only thing you can do, especially when you're in a situation where you can't get out of it, right? Right. Especially with if kids are involved or something like that, right?
Or culture.
Yeah, unless she whisks them away in the middle of the night somewhere they can't be found, you're going to have to be dealing with this unpleasant other, and the only way it works, the only way you can keep those reactions from happening is that you have to diffuse the button. The button has to simply not work anymore.
Yes. Wow.
And then they'll keep pushing it, right? As long as they can, until they will finally give up, because they're not getting any feedback on it, right?
Yeah.
But at first it's kind of like, when you're standing at the elevator and it's taking too long, and somebody will go, keep hitting the button. Like if you hit it a bunch more times, it's going to make the elevator come.
It'll rattle and shake it enough. Yes.
Yeah. Eventually the rats pulling that lever will stop pulling it if nothing happens.
If nothing happens.
And that's what you're dealing with, right? Yes, we can have compassion for them. I have an enormous amount of compassion for them, but I also know what they are, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I protect myself from what they are. And that doesn't mean I have to hurt them or condemn them or anything like that. I understand, but I won't be able to do anything for them until some consciousness emerges and there's some willingness to look. And when you're somebody who is the vampire, it's hard to look. You can't see yourself in a mirror, right?
Yes.
And you don't want to, right?
Yes.
You are dead inside. You're walking dead. And this is, the vampire is a mythological figure, and that's what it represents, right? It represents that kind of mind that is just feeding on others, but can't look itself in the face.
Yeah. You bring up that statement that we all know too well, is we've heard it. And I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to tell a mini story and then ask a question. And I'm going to bring up fake it till you make it, because that's always been a tricky one for me. I don't like it, but I'll just go into this. You talked about whisking children away. Now they're not children, but I will share that I was in a very bad situation 10 years ago, and I had to steal my own cat. I did a midnight run. I totally waited till they were gone, and then I packed up what little I could, and I took the cat, and I got myself into an apartment with underground parking, and I hid out and did this. But you know what? Guess what? I didn't change the button. So you know what? Enough of those threatening texts like, "Oh, I'll find you," or this or that. I responded, right. And I was strong enough though, but it wasn't fake it till you make it. It wasn't willpower, GP and lovely people watching, as I share vulnerably. It was that I suddenly saw that I was the vampire, and I was blaming them, the other person, for me believing what they were saying. So I was able to say, this is me, and I need to know who I am. So
yes.
So can you talk about the fake it till you make it? Because it doesn't really work for me.
Well, like everything, I'm even teaching it in the class right now. We learn naturally by listening and then imitating, right? So the term "fake it until you make it" is kind of harsh, right? That's like saying I'm going to fake playing the piano until I can really play the piano. No, I'm sitting down and playing the piano. I play it badly, right? But if I keep doing it, I'll play it better, right? So, everything becomes a practice when it's conscious. And of course, you're going to have to practice it, right? Everything inside you is going to want to react, right? And give them what they want, right? To try to get out of the discomfort of that moment. And this is where the rubber meets the road. You have to just it's not really faking it. It's just you're bringing your behavior and reactions in line with what you've come to see to be true, right? And that doesn't happen automatically, right? Just because I see it doesn't mean the message, the body didn't get the text message yet. Right? It's going to take some time for that to actually move south and sink in, because it's an automated system, right? It was trained, hit that button, this happens. And it will stay that way until you kind of, sneak yourself into the middle and make a gap, right? So that when that synapse fires, there's nothing there catching it. There's no reactive pattern. And this is a process. This is not something that happens overnight. It's not something that happens instantaneously. It is guided completely by consciousness. And the more I know who I am, the more resolute and persistent I am, right, in making it happen. And it's knowing who you are and recognizing the suffering that happens when you give in, when you don't.
Yes.
Between those two things, there's plenty of motivation. Right?
The suffering is not knowing who you are, because I will say it was 3 years. I'm very good friends with that person now. But there was a lot of reprogramming and looking at a thing, and there's complete safety and all that good stuff. I'm not with them, but that's okay. But it did take 3 years even before there was a comfort level of even doing that. But I love that's what you're saying, and that's why the work is necessary. It sounds like, oh gosh, I got to do this work on myself every day, but you're doing something on yourself every day anyways.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, oh, I got to brush my teeth again.
Yes.
Well, they got dirty again. The mind wants to put this off to the side. Oh, this is too hard. Let's have another margarita, right? That's what the mind wants to do, because remember, the mind does not want you to know who you are. And it's not because it's bad. It's not because it's this evil gargoyle thing, right? It's just, it believes that if you discover who you are, you're going to hurt, because expressing who you are, where when you were a child, literally caused you hurt. And so it says, okay, this cannot be expressed. And it hides it even from you, especially from you.
Yes. Yes. How shocking is it when is it always a shock? Does it always scare us, hurt us, make us uncomfortable when it's no longer hidden and we see it? We're like, oh.
Of course. Imagine, you got a house and there's this room, you can't go in it, right? And it's been closed for 20 years. You find, okay, fine, I'm going to go in now. And you open it up, and what do you find? You turn on that light. It's not a pleasant sight. It smells. Rats are running around, right? I mean, it's like, oh God. But it's a big room. There's a lot of, I mean, your house is, you're only living in a tiny part of your house, right? There's this wonderful room. It could turn into a studio or a workout room or a meditation room or something. But first, you have to clean out the crap. to make room for it to serve a higher purpose. And that is, these things collect in there. And this is the work. And it's not work. It's not really work. Self-discovery is not really working on yourself, right?
Right.
There's the process of self-discovery makes a very natural energy of correction that takes place. You very naturally begin to make different choices. You just begin to live your life differently, but it's not a discipline. Okay, I've got to live my life differently. Right. That will almost guaranteed not work, right? Because you can't sustain it. Right? But if I fundamentally shift my self-perception, everything's going to change. Right? It's so all you have to do. You don't even have to worry about all of this. I say the integration part takes care of itself. All you have to do is be willing to watch yourself, watch your feelings, watch your thoughts, to see which thoughts and feelings are obviously arising from your true self. They're arising out of love, they're arising out of compassion, they're out of wisdom, or are they arising out of the ego? Do the thoughts reflect the ego, the narrowness, limitation, pettiness, all of those kinds of things? And then it's simply a choice. Which am I going to hang out with, right? But without that willingness to do that, right? Your natural capacity to discriminate between the relative quality of something will be hindered. And discrimination is the key. Discrimination is this discernment arises, which is the essence of wisdom. Until that happens, you are an automaton.
Yeah. Which crowd are you going to hang out with? Well, and speaking of which crowd you're going to hang out with, poor Eva cannot hang out with us, our crowd, because she is locked out. Penny is sharing with us.
Yes, yes. I'm sorry, Ava.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Eva.
No, what happened? What happened was it was somebody was advertising a porn site on my satsang, and I went and blocked them, and somehow Ava got blocked.
Ava, was that you?
Was
No.
that? I knew you had a side gig hustle going on.
We are teasing. Oh, darn it.
Can I get a free membership?
Oh, maybe you can log in Ava's.
After I'm done here, I'll figure out how to do it.
Okay.
There's got to be a way to unblock them.
Yeah. Oh, poor girl. Poor girl. Okay. Oh, I'm gonna read.
She's watching on I guess on Facebook. Probably
Yes.
in the group.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Hold on a second here. Oh, I'm laughing at Susanna's quite nice comment. Thank you. Go on. Vampire. Okay, so I want to go through a couple of it. I can't believe the first half hour just flies by. I didn't even get to see anything, and I was like, okay.
I know.
Okay, hold on here. Let's go to this one. Okay, because one of my questions, and I'm going to throw it out there, and then I can sift through, because one of them was, and Bob is sharing with us about thinking of herself as a vampire. Wait, feels bad thinking of myself as a vampire. One of the things I was thinking is sometimes, and I could be wrong here too, I probably am on this one. What if when somebody else has said something about us that is nasty or negative, or we take it like it stings, like you said, I like that. But it actually has helped us. Like, can something that somebody else says that stings help us?
Well, if there's any truth in it, yeah. But you're the one that's going to have to determine whether what they're saying is true or not. And some people can speak something true. And as a matter of fact, usually when a vampire, there's some degree of truth in it. It's not complete, because it's got to have some place to hook you, right?
Right.
So it can't be, you stole my car when you obviously didn't, right? Right. There's got to be something for them to hook onto. If there's nothing there to hook, nothing can happen. And at that point, even a criticism that comes in the most venomous way, you can go, yeah, okay, yeah, I guess I could do that better, right? But now there's no sting in it, right? Because I'm not reacting to the person. I'm just taking what information is there to see if it's valid or not, right? Yes. Like one of the comments I got on one of my videos, somebody says, it's pretty good, but nobody wants to listen to some old guy talk. Why don't you get some young, pretty girl? And after I had a good laugh, I said, good idea. Ta-da.
That was a perfect example.
There's the example. Well, yeah, I should do that.
Yeah, and you did take a break, because that's very interesting, because you can go through all the, hey, it can have benefits here and not there. I received this insult, I'm going to say, but it's truth all the time, and I'm okay with it. I make amazing food, honestly, I really do, but I don't plate. I plate horribly. It looks ugly. It's messy. I leave the fork in it when I take a picture. Like, it's just like, here it is. But I remember when I was said, my guy said that, and I was like, I do so. And I do not. It stung though at first, and I thought, well, it's because I probably would like to plate nicely, but it means I'm going to give up my time, and I want the time more. I want to rush and just get it done. I don't care. So
there you go.
I see what you're saying. If we've got somewhere to hook you, so if somebody says something like, you're getting fat, you're getting old, you're getting this or that, there's something in you already.
I've heard all of those.
I'm laughing, but I don't mean to. So what if it is true, but you don't want to do anything about it, or you can't do anything about it, but it does hurt?
Well, this isn't about becoming immune to, you're not a rock, for crying out loud.
Right.
You're going to be touched, and all of us on a very human level there's always something in our life we want to improve on. This is part of human nature, right? But that's not the same as a deep knowing of the essence of your being. The essence of your being is changeless. It can't be touched, right? And if that's where my sense of self is, everything becomes just, information. It's all, I mean, there's no reaction there. Now, that doesn't mean you don't feel, right? If somebody has something, I get some really nasty comments on YouTube. I go, oof, right? It doesn't stick, right? Shoot, right through. But I also feel no need to defend myself or argue or anything like that. It's just their perception. But you want to do better. I want to do a better job. I want to do better production. That's perfectly natural.
Yeah.
Right. So we have to discern between that and give ourselves permission to grow, permission to respond. Even if the consciousness is there, the sting won't last. It won't turn into a self-recrimination. It won't be something that can be manipulated. Yes, it stings. You ask somebody out on a date, and they cold shoulder you. They don't even do a nice letdown, right? Don't expect it not to hurt, right? But now, does that hurt turn into something else? Does it connect up with a deeper fear of rejection that goes back to childhood? And so now you're associating this moment, which is just, a random moment happening, with something, with some part of you that really is hurt, right? And so the reaction will be coming from the old hurt and not from this moment, right? And that's where the discernment comes in, because of course, not everybody's going to like you. Yeah. I don't care who you are. Not everybody is going to like you. And people do say nasty things, and there's no law that says they shouldn't. And so becoming immune to it does not mean becoming indifferent or unfeeling. It's just your reactions are instantaneous and appropriate for the moment. They don't dig up something old that gets projected on that moment, and now you're an 8-year-old being yelled at instead of the fully adult person that's just gotten a rejection, which is like, okay, well, I was rejected.
Yeah. Interesting about the deeper I wrote down does the sting connect to a deeper fear, different not being safe? It's interesting in in general, some other people even on TV, actually, I've seen this on TV a lot on those sitcoms that please don't waste your time watching. Is when they'll say something mean to their spouse, but then they'll say, "Oh, you're only upset about that because your mother used to do that, or your father." They would pass the blame of their manipulation off on the other, and so now you're kind of left there going, well, geez, I can't even get mad at my spouse because yes, my parents really did do that to me, so it's not. There, and
that is a modern trick of the psychologically savvy vampire.
Ooh, a modern trick of the savvy vampire. Writing that down.
Yes. Yes. They know all the. Oh, that's just your mother. It's again. Notice, there's never any responsibility taken by the vampire. Right. It's always you, right? Always you. It's gaslighting and all of that kind of stuff. It's always you. I didn't do anything.
Right. So there's the Bob's question. If we are the person who is like, I'm always right. I didn't do that. I wouldn't do that. And then we, and that's just, she's saying, I'm thinking wow, I feel bad if I'm the vampire, but can we be a vampire consciously?
Yeah. First off, if you are worried about being the vampire, you're not the vampire. They don't worry about it. Okay. Okay, right. They're not the least bit concerned, right? Okay. Because they are totally unconscious. Right? Okay. If you ask them, are you a vampire? They go, what, me? I'm the kindest person in the world. I care about everybody's feelings. That's the delusion in their mind, because they're completely unaware of the mechanism that's going on. So if there's enough, as they say, if you're worried you might be insane, you're not insane.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Your words
I
are
mean,
a narcissist. You're
it's that
not.
simple, right? And if even the thought of hurting somebody like that causes you suffering, you are not a vampire, right?
Right.
So, Bob, no problem, right? You know, but you're saying I have unpleasant feelings towards certain people. Guess what? So do I,
Me
right?
too.
You know, pretty much everyone in the United States government,
Yes. Yeah.
you know, with a very few exceptions. I find them all hypocritical, manipulative, liars. They wouldn't know the truth from their ass if it bit them. It's as simple as that. So you don't have to. Okay, I love everybody. It's not an emotional thing, right? Love is the recognition of truth.
Ooh.
Without that recognition of truth, it becomes simply affection, and then the affection will be based on the interaction of the robots.
Yes.
Right? How they interact. I love them. Why? Because they fit their compatible software. And that's all we know of as love. And that stimulates the chemicals and all of that kind of stuff. Genuine love sees things as they are and lives accordingly. And then there are those that, you know, if you're fortunate enough to meet somebody who is at the same level and can reflect that back to you, you can have a wonderful relationship that can grow and expand. So to think that somehow in spirituality you're not supposed to have bad feelings about anybody is like, okay, how well is that working for you?
Mhm.
I mean, you know, if you have bad feeling, you have a bad feeling, right? This is, you know, what do? You feel the bad feeling, right? And then you keep being with it until it either just dissipates or it transforms, right? Right. And this is not a psychological thing. Well, it's always a reflection of me, so I'm mad at them because there's something wrong with me. That's a
What?
witch hunt.
Ooh. Ooh, vampires and witches, guys. Oh my God. We are coming up to Halloween. So this is,
Oh yeah, that's right.
we might do that actually. Witch hunt and vampires for the Halloween show. Not
For
even
the Halloween show, yes. Yeah, it ends up being you go looking for a cause, right? And you don't need to. You just stay present with what's happening. Am I having an unpleasant, untrusting feeling towards someone? The answer is yes. It's that simple. So now you're simply with what is actually here. And what could be more truthful or loving than simply being present with what is here, no matter what it is, right?
Yeah.
Trying to twist yourself into knots to I got to have loving feelings about this person is it will cripple your spiritual growth, quite literally.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, crippless. Good words today,
Yeah,
Gigi.
because now you're just trying to create a spiritual identity instead of being yourself. And how do you be yourself? You are present with whatever you happen to be feeling without judgment.
Yes.
And the absence of judgment creates the environment in which that feeling can transform itself.
Okay, yes. I had to think about that. There is a few things, and I know this for myself, like just like that. I know that, okay, I've been in fights before, you know, in relationships, and I often, when something's really been a volcano, and I need to be I always just say, just I need a second. I need a moment here, because I need to be present with what I'm actually feeling to honor it and not just be told, don't feel this, that's not right, or you're wrong, or I need to. So I exit myself. I always go to my bathroom. Favorite bathroom, and I just go, okay, I gotta breathe here for a second. I gotta stop all judgment. Nobody's right, nobody's wrong. What am I truly feeling right now? I need to be present with this true, honest to God feeling, and just let it arise. And then, so now I'm gonna ask for guidance here for everybody. If you ever get to there, okay, so now what? Just be with. So this has come up. This is how I'm feeling. It's the truth. Doesn't mean I love it, but it is
Right.
coming from love.
Well, yeah, it's always coming from love when there's insight and when it's true. And sometimes all you can do is be with it. There's nothing else you can do,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, I like that.
All you're trying to do is make enough space so that it can resolve itself, right? right? Because it's not as if, okay, there's no right, there's no wrong, right? This isn't moral relativism, right? Right. In any given situation, there is that which is most right. For me, that is which is most loving and most true, right? So between all the options of how something could go in a circumstance, for me, the choice is always what is the most loving. I've never found that to miss, right? And that means now the very act of saying that means it may not be what I think it should be.
Right. Yes.
So now that drops the judgment, but it doesn't leave you in a moral abyss, right? It opens up the door so that the best can happen, because you're no longer sitting up there with an axe to grind. You've not come in, with a predefined agenda of how things are supposed to go. In which case you become that infinite presence that can morph itself into whatever is needed in the moment. And that's exactly what happens. This is the freedom of having the availability of your own inner resources. When they're restricted by an opinion as to what should be and what shouldn't, those inner resources are constricted. You can't use them. You will just simply, you're the one-trick pony. You're gonna show up as you always do, and that's when you try to manipulate the circumstances to be the way you want them, and that's what vampires do. They have Johnny One Note. They have one way of being in the world. Whereas truly being free, you have an infinite number of ways of being in the world, and it makes you the most resourceful and the most responsive. And that is what, when somebody else sees it, they call it wisdom.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Oh. I know we're doing vampires and witches. However, we have a couple of, if you're reading the comments alongside, or maybe you hear us talking about it, it's because the nymph or the peacemaker or the tribe, these are aspects to which GP has assigned these new names, and they're also they work with the chakra system. So if you're familiar with the chakras, and 1, 2, 3, top, bottom, and middle, heart, solar, sacrum, all that good stuff. I am going to promote one of the courses here right now, because had I not done that course, GP, on the chakras, which we did a show on it called "Putting a New Spin on the Chakras," which I think is very clever, is that
yes, incredibly.
That really assisted in when you talk about having access to inner resources. Sometimes we're only coming from one workroom, one tool shed, using one tool.
Yep.
And it's because maybe one aspect of yourself is continually showing up. And then when you're wearing your shirt.
I appear to have a drinking problem.
What's in that cup?
My drinking problem, yeah. It's like,
a little more black pepper spice than usual. Oh, well, we'll let you dry up there a little bit, Nico. So in that course, which is I can't remember the real name of the course now. So I know it's the chakras, but what is the real name? Not putting a spin on the chakras, but
the chakras, archetypes of consciousness.
The archetypes of consciousness, which is quite a bit more beautiful. But so when I really like that to help and assist as we build here on self-inquiry, because sometimes you're thinking, gosh, am I the vampire, or are they the vampire? Like, am I the witch being hunted? What's going on? I really felt like that because, Susanna, who's Creative Revolution, is asking this question. So if we are in our nymph without consciousness, we are robots to our desires? ? But how do we enjoy our desires and still be in consciousness? And so when you guys read these questions and that, it's super, the free intro course it will get you off to a great start. So you want to go to GP Walsh. Yes, gpwalsh.com/chakras, but the intro, right? So there's an intro.
Chakras, dash intro. Yeah.
Dash intro. Well, we'll put that in the comments, because guys, that is the best 90 minutes you'll ever spend of your life right now to help you with this. And the intro is free. So just go there, do that before you show up to our next show, because it's great. And you can build on it from there. So let's answer or just address that question.
Well, when we're talking about things like that, and it's not, it's not that far afield. The vampire is a particular kind of, it's an archetype. It represents particular states of mind and programming that we get into. The chakras, and I gave them archetypal identities just to bring out their character, right? Rather than the spinning vortex of light, it actually is an aspect of you. Like red light is an aspect of light, right? It's not the whole of light, but it's an aspect, and they're all light. I don't care what the frequency, they are all light, right? But each one of them has a kind of different characteristic and function. And the function of our basic desires for pleasure, for reproduction, it's centered in the hips. We dance there, and it's good. We like it, right? So now you can't. The consciousness has nothing to do with enjoying or not enjoying. This is, that's where spirituality got infected by religious or cultural morality, which serves the interests of the culture, not the individual. If it is conscious, you are capable of wisely using your desires, indulging them when it's safe, and not indulging them when it isn't. It allows you to discern between the two, but it also makes it, when you are, it's total. You can completely do it. But yes, if you are unconscious, you can either become a judge and a critic of desire. And so now you become a fundamentalist. It's a sin. I shouldn't even think about such things, right? Or you can become a hedonist, right? Which objectifies everything, right? I mean, if you look at the extreme, the pure desire for pleasure would jump off a building just to have the experience, right? It would be a very rich and lively life, and it would last about 15 minutes, right? Whereas if it's just nothing but safety, there is no pleasure in it. There's no fun. You always wear black, right? Or burlap or something like that, like the Puritans, which is exactly that. No fun, no pleasure whatsoever. It was all that. And you become an ant, right? Right? You're just pure robotic and be. There's no individuality whatsoever. So it has to be this. It has to be this flow between the two. And the deeper meaning of the nymph, or the second chakra, is our natural drive towards freedom of self-expression. And this is why that energy in us has been so suppressed by cultural and its culture and its gods. Because it represents a direct threat to the tribe and to cultural values. They don't want freedom. Culture does not want you to be free, does not want you to be who you are. It wants you to be obedient, to conform. It's no mistake that the sin of Adam and Eve, according to Christianity, was disobedience.
Yeah.
It's like the worst thing you can possibly do is to disobey the rules, right?
Yes.
Really?
The flow between the two is very representative in my life with my cats. As a tribe, I need to keep them safe. So if I take them to the vet or in an unknown area, they get their harness and leashes on, because I need to control their not that cut back here, stay safe. I can protect you. But then once we are on freedom ground and they know their area, I let them go. And so there's that flow that they.
Yes, that's it.
Yes.
That's
so
it.
everybody be a cat. Go ahead.
The cat metaphor always works. Yes. So yeah, and I can speak from experience. You actually enjoy those pleasures more because you're not holding on to them.
Yeah.
They're transient. They're going to come and go. So you're fully there when they're there, and you're fully willing to let them go when they're not, which is inevitable, right? It has to do this. The one who gets stuck in their desires is constantly in search of the next hit, right? They're constantly in search of the next high, and that can be in terms of physical pleasure. It can be the search for the bliss of God and enlightenment, right? It's a search for something that doesn't exist, namely permanent personal bliss.
Hmm. I know we've gone into the flow, but I really like it. It's just that I'm thinking of like the work week. Everybody knows they have their stability and their structure and what's good and healthy and stuff. Then they might get a little loose on the week, and maybe they don't. Maybe they continue that path, right? But maybe it's
Yeah,
this.
that's right.
Yes, this it's
The picture of your butt on the Xerox machine
Fun Friday
at the office party. Yeah.
but I'm just so loving this. I realize, you know, as this conversation is coming up, is that we can hear. You can hear what everybody says. Hear what everybody says about you: good, bad, ugly, beautiful. Even the good stuff, you still need to check in and like you said, that if
Yes.
it stings, or if I'm thinking of Velcro right now, actually, because there's something to stick it
Yep.
to, you know, or, and then what if, we'll bring this full circle. We now recognize that we've taken on and believed a lot of negative things people have said to us. We're like, wow, gosh, I have a lot of beliefs that aren't even mine, but you're still kind of like, I'm sensitive, like ouchy, and people are still things. Do you need to go away to an ashram? Do you need to lock yourself? Like, how do we start healing and without getting
Yeah.
bumped all the
Well,
time?
it helps. I mean, that's why I do retreats. You know, I mean, it helps to get out of the environment where you're being triggered, right? So that you can experience the safety and experience what happens when you're there. That's the value of a retreat. The problem is with most retreats, the people aren't prepared to go back into the realm in which they're going to get triggered. Those triggers are all still there.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So the rubber has to meet the road. You have to get enough experience of the environment, and retreats are designed to be perfectly safe. They're a completely safe container. Nothing is triggering you there. Right. Now you go back into the world. All those triggers are still there from your life, right? You're going back into you're back to your work, your kids, your spouse, all of that stuff. They're going to start pressing the buttons. And most people go, oh God, I got to have another retreat. I got to read another book. You know, I didn't do it. I failed. And the answer is no, you didn't fail, right? This is what has to happen, right? You now have to take that into the real world, right? And begin to see clearly the reactive patterns, and that's how you begin to diffuse them. And of course, that's why this takes time. This is why I have lengthy courses that go over weeks and years, and 120 hours of video, right? Where I say pretty much the same thing the whole time in different ways. But whether I'm teaching EFT or the chakras or any of these things, I'm always saying the same thing. But this is the way we have to be so exposed to it, that it eventually begins to sink in and circumvent the programming. So we can clearly see the programming as programming and not as myself. And that seeing it as programming doesn't make it go away.
Yes. Oh, okay. That's huge. Just because we see the program and we go, aha, the program, it's still there. It's there's the elephant.
Oh,
it's still there.
It's still there. Yeah. Right. As a matter of fact, it might even go, whoa, and try to run and hide.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Like cockroaches.
like turn on a light in the room, the cockroaches scatter fast, right?
Yeah.
And they're there.
Oh. Okay, this is huge. This is very helpful, because I think a lot of people put pressure on themselves.
Cockroaches. Like, well, that's a great metaphor for programming the cockroaches.
I remember where the place I worked at, this is back in 1996, had cockroaches, and I was like, no, there's not. And then I remember the lady there, she goes, well, they're not there when the light's on. I'm like, well, that's like telling me the boogeyman's here. How am I going to believe you? What? There's cockroaches. And I got really afraid and was like sitting up on furniture and stuff. And but they're harmless, but they don't even bite. They just squish their bodies.
They're totally harmless. Yeah, they're just kind of weird.
Yeah, so they just give you a signal that you've left some food around and you need to clean up, or that your shop is beside a restaurant. But I love that. So just because you see the program doesn't mean it goes. So a lot of us, I know this, are hard on ourselves or have high expectations. Like, oh, well, I see that that person's not being nice to me. I see that I am responding this way. Well, now that I see it, it won't happen again. And then it does over and over, and you get angry with yourself, and you're like, I'm not good enough to fix this. I'm not spiritual enough. I'm not doing it right.
Right.
So I guess we want to give the message that you're doing it right. Just hang in there. Hire GP,
That
work
is
with
doing it
GP.
right. Yeah. If you weren't doing it right, you wouldn't even know it was happening. Right. But just coming to know that it's happening does not diffuse the whole thing. It just is the direction in which you have to go.
Ooh.
And this is when it becomes a path. It becomes a genuine spiritual path. This is a life's work. Everybody's looking, they hear the stories of, Ramana Maharshi and Buddha's enlightenment. Of course, they don't hear about the 6 years of Buddha's self-torture before that, right? Nobody likes that part, right?
Yeah.
These pictures of the serene guy sitting under the Bodhi tree, when in fact he went under the Bodhi tree, he was emaciated. He was just, because he hadn't, he was a mess, right? he was a total wreck. There is no definitive aha. There's not going to be this moment where ta-da, it's all done, right? It has happened, right? But I can count on one hand the number of times in history that it has, and I would not run out of fingers. Okay,
Wow.
it is very, very rare. And if you really look at it closely, I mean, Buddha said he spent 500 lifetimes as a bodhisattva serving a Buddha, right? So if you look at it at that point, if it takes a lifetime or two to fully realize who you are, my God, so wow, great. This is we have to be willing to engage in it as if it was a process that is happening right in this moment, and not a preparation for some event that's going to take place. Right. So you stay right here and right now, and nobody can tell or predict or say when that aperture is going to open and never close again. So what do? Well, you just sit there and Steve Jourdain put it, talking about awakening. He said, I can show you where the door is, and I can show you how to knock. But there's no causal connection between you knocking and that door opening. However, if you're standing there knocking, you're in the very best place to see it if it does.
Yes.
The artist has no guarantee of the masterpiece coming out on the canvas. But what do? Wait until a masterpiece shows up? No, every day they're there with their paints at the canvas. What else can you do? So this becomes a very humbling act of, I am surrendering to this moment. This moment is what is essential for my ultimate enlightenment. It must be, or it wouldn't be happening.
Can you talk about the word surrender? I know we're running out of time. Sorry, I have this one last question, guys, and I will return. But surrender is really big. This came up for myself and a couple of my clients the other day, and some friends that are in the IR group, the Inner Reconciliation group, which God, we didn't talk about that. But surrender. Can you define what that means and what it might look like?
It's well, in practice, right? A real honest God definition of it is when you run out of moves and you finally recognize you're out of moves. When it really sinks in, I don't know what to do. I am done. There's nothing I can do. Right? It's exactly what happened when I had that vision of Smith and the Inner Reconciliation was born, because I had to go, I give up. And I really did give up, right? So most people, okay, I can surrender. Now do I get what I want? Right? It's a quick look over the shoulders. Is that money in the bank yet? That's not surrender. That you're just running a gambit, right? You're trying to con the universe, and it's too smart. It's just way too smart. It can smell a con a mile away. So Genuine surrender, again, arises out of self-knowledge. When you know what is, you surrender to it, right? Now, you'll find that the surrendering to it is the struggle. The ego does not want to surrender. The ego can't surrender. So you have a point where you can surrender the ego, right? This is what's referred to as the death, the spiritual death. This is the crucifixion, right? Remember, Christ did not want this to happen. The story in the Garden of Gethsemane, he says, look, I'd really rather not, but thy will be done. That was him struggling with his own surrender over it, right? So it's not the kind of thing, oh, I surrender to the truth. Bullshit.
Right. Oh.
If you're not struggling over it, you're not surrendering, because surrender, the ego cannot do.
Yes.
And it will hold on until, it'll just be constantly, okay, surrendering. Now, what do I get? And it's subtle, it's constant. And this is why it's a process that you really need to engage yourself in, as Papa G would always refer to being vigilant. You have to be vigilant, because that's going to pop up over and over again. And somebody asked him, a fully enlightened master, somebody asked him, Papa G, do you have to be vigilant? He says, until my dying breath. Okay, so if he has to be vigilant, dying breath, let us not be complainers, okay?
Yes,
if it's a little tough, it's a little tough today.
Yes, yeah. I'm so glad I asked that question. I hope that you guys are as well. That really was, I feel like a surrender show is coming up. I do, especially because right now we are in the middle of, well, I shouldn't say the middle of, the inner reconciliation process. Many people have had to do some work beforehand, before class started. Yes. And now that you're feeling in tip-top shape, I can tell, because poor DP was a little bit not well there for a bit, but you came through, and now we're back on schedule. So classes are on Thursday, and I think, is this the final day that they could even pop in?
Yeah, it was actually last week, but because I was late in getting stuff done, because I was basically incapacitated and couldn't talk for 2.5 days. Yeah, we extended it to today. So today is the last day if you want to join that. And that is here. There's the information about it. Bring up my fancy little thing down there.
I love that you do that. And I want to share with everybody that I know, and this was such a good, busy, filling topic. So what we can do is we'll comb through the questions and stuff after. We can add stuff in. But what I would love to share about those classes that are on Thursday, they are live and interactive. They're actually you being able to raise your hand literally and participate and ask these questions to be walked through, because you're doing the work on your own or in a group, because Penny's got a group going, and lots of people are involved there. And what I can say is that I have to say, I'm glad I did the chakra course. And I didn't even do the full course, I have to be honest. I did the intro course, and then I just had talked so much to GP about it. But being able to be supported in those classes, GP, with Evan and yourself, and Evan, you guys are teaching the same thing and supporting the same way, but such a different approach, but both with gentleness and wisdom, helping us along. And it's incredible. But you guys, if it's too much and you're like, I'm not there yet, or I missed it, I'm watching this as a replay, there is so much offered that you could start at. So if I'm just going to send you on over to gpwalsh.com. Go to the website, because there's so many opportunities for you to just listen to things, do a meditation, learn a little bit about any of the foundations of which GP teaches from, and you can decide what your next move is from there, where you are. You can even have a one-on-one with GP, privately, just you and him. So, and Evan, I'm sure too. So
Evan does private sessions as well. Yes.
Yeah. So I want to encourage that, and just to reach out, just message any of us, myself, either of us, and we can help direct you into a place that we think that might be a great place for you to start. So I want to say, and thank you.
Well, yeah, I mean, the shows like this in satsang, are pointers, and they're significant ones, right? But as I've discovered more and more, there's a process that needs to be engaged in. Not everybody can just listen to the absolute truth, of who you really are, and get it. Even my teacher Mooji would say, "Yes, you understand it, but that there's way more to it. You can't just. That's not going to be enough for it to really penetrate the system." And throughout all the Hollywood versions of enlightenment, right, where this sudden, right, there's this, this sudden moment where, the hero realizes he's a hero. Peter Parker gets bit by the spider, and from that moment on, he's Spider-Man. It doesn't work that way. There's a lot of ebb and flow. There's a lot of wisdom. There's a lot of growth that needs to take place in wisdom and love. There's a purification of the heart that takes place, which then will purify and dissolve all the traumas within the body and the like. And by purification, I don't mean morality. I mean removing everything that's not you. So it's the pure you, and it's a process. It's a process that takes time. I've been at this for 50 years. Okay, so let's kind of put this into perspective. Right. So somebody showing up isn't going to be having the same kind of experience I am having. Right. That doesn't mean you're going to take 50 years. That's the whole point. I was kind of muddling along blindly. I can shorten that seriously for you, but I can't dictate what it's going to take to finally, for that last little penny to fall. Some things in us are extremely tenacious. We've had some deep hurts, right? And those parts of us are very well defended, and it's going to take a lot of love and patience to bring them out into the light where they can be redeemed. So I do have to say this is a path. It's not a fix.
You can't buy a seat here. You can't bribe and get the front row.
No, and you can't visualize and always park in front.
Right. We can all walk anyways. It's good to exercise.
Yeah. Park in the back on purpose. Yes.
Yes. And there are some questions I know that what we'll do is we'll go in after, because I did read a couple quick ones that I thought, we do want to address some things like when people are sick and how to address them and treat them and all those things. So I'll GP will go in after and do that. So we'll say goodbye. But my gosh, see, I always think, what are we going to talk about for an hour? Oh, right. Okay. So thank you everybody who is here. I'm going to say that just a big giant thank you for everybody always showing up and commenting and sharing with us. And if you do look forward to a Halloween version of witch hunt vampires and all that good stuff, I think that would be fun, just to have fun.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
It'd be fun. All right, thank you everybody. Thank you, GP. I will see everybody soon. Bye.
Bye everybody.